All right, so I'd like to welcome everyone to the Breathing Lotus Living Arts Studio here in Kingston. Thank you, Paul David Shea, for opening your doors to us. My name is Jennifer Harris. I'm the president of America's Hometown Laureates, Inc. It's a nonprofit organization that supports poetry events throughout Plymouth and surrounding area. Just as an aside off the record, although I know this is being recorded, my goal is to encourage any people who are interested in poetry on the South Shore to find us in Plymouth because there's a need for it. So, and today's a perfect example of how we can bring ourselves together and lighten our shared load. So I do also like to take a moment to thank our sponsors. Plymouth Foundation is a strong supporter, and that is how I even began working with Stephen Cole through the Plymouth Foundation. That's how we became the supporters of a Plymouth Poet Laureate. We also want to thank Paul David Shea for the Breathing Lotus Studio environment. Uva Wine Bar, last week we had our first of the 2 June pairings of poetry at Uva Wine Bar on Court Street, and we had a wonderful time. I believe everyone enjoyed the atmosphere and the poetry. And then the local scene, we always like to give a shout out to our video recorders and our crew. They do a great job. And to Elizabeth Shanahan-Jewett, who is a great resource for us. So I think with that being said, I'd like to invite Paul David Shea to come up and welcome us, and then he will also do a poetry reading. I am asking for 3 poems or up to 5 minutes, but we can move this along, and I will introduce each poet in between readings, so you don't have to remember to say someone else's name. So, welcome.
Well, thank you all for showing up here. This is our second year hosting the America's Hometown Laureates, and last year was a lot of fun. This year is nice to see everybody. Some of you I've seen last year. Some of you are new. But what we do here is we are a healing arts facility. So we teach yoga, we teach meditation, we teach a lot of different things to help people along with everyday life, pretty much. And I personally myself, I work in the, I'm a somatic therapist. So I do a lot of work with grief and bereavement, and that's where a lot of my poetry comes from, writing. For me, it's a healing art, as I'm sure most of you poets can agree with that. So I'm going to read a piece that I wrote about 2 months ago. This particular piece was one of my favorite poets, is I'm sure you all know, is David White. He has a piece called Finisterre. And there's a line in it that says, no way to your future now but the way this shadow can take you. And that always hit me just a certain way. And one day I was thinking, I'm going to use that as a prompt. So I used that line as a prompt. And the prompt was, where could this shadow take me? So that's the name of this particular piece that I'm going to read. Where could this shadow take me? Where could this shadow take me if I stopped flinching in its presence? If I stood still long enough to hear its message and what it has been trying to say through this ache that lives deep in my chest. This silence deep in my voice, this weight I carry without ever knowing its name. It could possibly take me into rooms I closed without ceremony, without ritual, rooms where my grief still sleeps on the floor by itself, where my anger sits upright, patient and wild-eyed, enraged and waiting to be remembered, not as a threat, but as a signal that something sacred was crossed. Maybe it could take me back to the moment I split myself in two, one half for survival and the other left behind to keep my truth safe. It could show me how to gather both parts, stitch them back together with tenderness and compassion, for I was a child once remembered and then forgotten through time. It could be down, it could take me down, oh yes, but not to drown, to root, to listen, to feel the ground of me again. This shadow may just lead me not out of the dark, but through it, until the dark no longer feels like exile, but like a home. And perhaps on the other side of this place there is a light, not just above me or below me, but deep within me, one that never needed another's permission to feel safe ever again, one that only ever asked me to stop running and look and say, there you are. Begin right there where the shadow ends. Thank you. Yeah, that's it.
And our next reader is Emily Stile.
What a joy to be with other poets and listeners and readers. American poet Emily Dickinson said, "A word is dead when it is said, some say. I say, it just begins to live that day." I'm honored today to give voice to the words of two young poets, both in their 40s, whose wonderful anthology was just published last month. The opening poem is by James Cruz. It's called Married to Amazement. The man I married sat next to me after our wedding. October light pouring in over dusty pews as he loosened his tie and sipped from a cup of apple cider, closing his eyes to savor the taste. Now I think I didn't marry him so much as his amazement for the everyday. The way he still gasps each time we see something new. Baby painted turtle plodding through a stream in the quarry, or a neon orange caterpillar inching across crisp leaves on the trail. How he kneels to film it from every angle, while I crouch beside him in awe of his awe, learning all I can. What a poem to think about during Pride Month. All right, here's one from his husband, who's the co-anthologizer and also a poet. His name is Brad Peacock. And I think part of the joy of this poem for me is that I'm a big sister to 5 brothers. I also have a sister. So if the truth be told, I sometimes go around looking for brothers to adopt. And these two are in the running. This is Brad Peacock's Look Deeper. From outside appearances, I may be a middle-aged man now, with gray in my beard, hair receding like an ocean tide, and crow's feet permanently imprinted on the corners of my eyes, each line like a Rolodex full of stories. The good, the bad, the joy, the sad. But dig a little deeper under the surface and you will find a little boy who will always live inside the walls of this aging body. A younger self who did not have the words, did not have the voice or skills to navigate the complex world he was born into. Insecure and scared, he always pushed his needs down to take care of others. Frozen in fear from seeking the love he always wanted, until his light was nothing more than one last smoldering ember almost extinguished beneath piles of ashes, having almost given up on this life. Now I walk down gravel roads with my husband side by side, paying close attention as we help one another heal, comforting those two little boys forever within us, hand in hand, growing older together, finally finding our way home. And there's one more. I got three, I think. And this is Brad's just born while they've been on the road with the new anthology. And it's our anthem for my LGBTQ plus family. And here he is. You can scrub letters from websites. You can take away our health care. You can do your best to strip our humanity, but we will not be erased. You can misgender people. You can continue your campaign of casual cruelty. You can burn these very written words, ban the books that mention our existence. We will not be erased. We are loving sons, daughters, and children. We are brothers, sisters, and siblings. We are family. We are friends. We are neighbors. We are those who care for your loved ones. We are those who risk our lives for your freedom. We are the farmers who feed your families. We belong in every community. We will never allow your darkness to diminish us. We are devoted prisms of brilliance whose collective fractals of light will forever find the fissures in the barriers you fabricate. We will never be erased.
Thank you, Emily. And next up is Ed Gaudette.
All right. This place has an unbelievable, the space has a aura, just a beautiful sense of peace and what you created here. It's wonderful. I read a lot of haikus, which you probably don't know because I never read them, but I'm going to read one today because I found it and I thought it was funny. Not funny in a strange way, but it's called Camp Haiku. Never knowing death, we assemble fervently, swim past loon for food. Just remember when you were in camp as a kid and you had your swimming lessons and you had to swim in order to eat lunch? Those damn Nazis at camp. All right. This one was appeared in Burning Word in April of this year. It's called A Romance Tonight. In the crisp death of summer, a cat falls from a broken branch. The moon sings, amused by paw, half crushed under the stars of a passing car. Vacant children drive purposely through the blaze maze of gilded cul-de-sacs, scattered with condoms and crushed fireball nips, numb to clouds adulting overhead. Outside the bar, a couple try to kiss for the first time. On the fire escape, some woman hums anxiously, sweeping. Waiting, I stare into my scotch as the glow from an RCA television and smells of ammonia suffocate the pub. Above the bar, the moon reflects a rooftop coop. The pigeon sits upright in its wired grave, cooing as the priest doubles over. Okay. Probably like you, I have a lot of projects going at once, right? I'll have a little ADHD to us. This one I started at the onset of the pandemic, which was a small project to write a poem for every year of my life. And I'm 60 this year, and I've got to 10. So I'll read two. One was picked up will be soon to be published in a recent journal, and one has not. And so there's a name of the poem, and then there's a year. And so this is called Kindergarten, 1970. Thank you for coming in today. I felt this had to be, I'm just not sure how to tell you, but this may be from trauma of loss. He can be disruptive, which is usually a cry, certainly under the circumstance, how could you blame him? Anyone who lost a mother so young, to have been there witnessing the horror, violent death as she parachuted into a congregation, which I had to actually look up. I think it's amazing as the step you read to him so much, his vocabulary. Last time it was a shiver, unkindness, and a wake before that. Look them up. I'm his real mother. Boy's imagination is interminable. Okay, this one is 5 years later. I'm 10, 1975. Mr. Smedley would play Dream On during 5th grade recess. He caught me once trying to rub my belly while patting my head during math. As Hooper discovers Ben Gardner's head, root beer barrels spit into beehive hair. My father runs me around the neighborhood in toughskins so he can coach midget football. It escalates to blocking and tackling an 85-pound bag on the front lawn while violent sun sets. Work provides escape. Maslow was a caddy. $6 pull carts, $8 carry plus tip, buys a shitload of stuff. Double kangaroos for 36, self-actualize at the turn. The world reveals itself to a paperboy. Collecting puts you on the inside. Atheist, adulteress, alcoholic. We could cure cancer or murder squirrels for a Briggs & Stratton 7-horsepower go-kart. Body temp red splayed over glare white snow. Hit it again. Coat's too thick. How wondrously supercilious and fractious. I deliver papers and I shoot squirrels. Thank you.
Thank you, Ed. That was great. I got to hear you 2 weeks in a row. I feel very fortunate. Life is good. And next up, we have John Holgerson.
I believe that if you are involved in the arts, whether you are an artist, a writer, a poet, an actor, a singer, a songwriter, if you're involved in the arts, there are times when you are called upon to exercise a responsibility to speak out when something that you feel is worth speaking out about has a value. And our democracy has contracted cancer. It's a real slow cancer. It starts with the most vulnerable in our society and spreads. And if you think that we are all sitting here and somehow are going to be privileged to avoid it touching us, I believe you would be mistaken. So I am going to take this opportunity to utilize the minimal gift that I have to read two poems. One is a dystopian poem that hasn't happened yet, but we have 3.5 years left of what appears to be, like I said, a very slow-moving cancer through our society and culture. John Kennedy said, "When power corrupts, poetry cleanses." Well, what happens when the corrupting power realizes that and decides we have to eliminate poetry? How poetry dies. The epigraph is what I just said: when power corrupts, poetry cleanses. John F. Kennedy. Like a Dickens Christmas ghost, they came shortly after midnight. She and I were asleep in bed, our backs to each other, a mutual angry end to a grammatical argument. The small round tip of a gun barrel kissed my left ear like a cold raindrop. "We are here for the verse," a voice said. I wanted to turn and look at her. I felt her stiffen, clench, then tremble violently. A different voice said, "Get up." I tried to rise, and the first voice said, "Not you." I fell back on the suit of soaked sheets, the shuffle of her gossamer gown mixed with sobs. I did not move until sunlight slanted through the window's Venetian blind. I searched for her first. It was as if she'd never been here. A slight scent of Pomona perfume fading from her pillow. All the poetry books with their universal connections of humanity were gone, declared treasonous by the government, ordered to be seized and destroyed. And when present, even the muse. As I said, that was an Orwellian look into a possible future. This is more a report on current events. I read a poem called "Warning" by the late Canadian poet Leonard Cohen, and it inspired me to write this poem, which is also called "Warning." If your neighbor disappears, oh, if your neighbor disappears, the Hispanic man from Venezuela who helped you paint your house, or the young woman who babysat your children dressed proudly in that rainbow-colored blouse. If your neighbor disappears, oh, if your neighbor disappears, don't ask what happened to the multi-tatted black man who lived on your block, or the foreign college student with whom you like to talk. Beware of the men wearing balaclavas who cruise our streets each day. They have a plan you can't ignore, or else there'll come a tapping, rapping, pounding on your door when your neighbor disappears. When your neighbor disappears. Thank you.
Thank you, John. I love dystopian stuff. So thank you. One of the benefits of hosting these open mics is we encourage new poets or poets who have been writing, but it gives them an opportunity to read in front of other folks. And so today we have Joseph LaCroix joining us.
Good afternoon. I sat here for the first time last year, not knowing too much about poetry. I will be honest with you, this is all new to me. I retired many years ago, and I was looking for and found what really makes me move. So I was thinking last year about this sanctuary, this place of reflection. So I thought I'd collect 3 short poems about the subject of empathy. So a lot of people have this image of large circles or putting a stone into a pond and watching the ripples feather out. So I'm going to read 3, which begins with the outer circle, nature, and then goes the second one to a close friend, and then the third one to myself, because my poem says, I want all of that's out there to be in here. So the first one is called, Don't Just Do Something. A mammoth ball of water has dropped from a thundercloud, exploding over the center of my perennial stems, my perennial sedum plants. smashing them into a pinwheel of stems, their bouquet of tiny purple flowers dotting a wide rim. Honeybees are busy having their full of sweetness, with no regard for the sedum's helpless state, lacking strength to upright themselves. I take some kite string and gently weave it around, making a tight lasso. It seems odd to see them bunched up, arranged like cornstalk. I feel a sudden uncertainty for doing something helpful, not knowing if I had made matters worse. Still, there is a happiness seeing these purple blossoms offer up their fruits to the bees, their scented fragrance from my, and never did they ask for my help, leaving me to just stand there, listening to their song unfold. This next one is called Be the Joy of Candles. When the world was created, first light pierced the darkness, burning as a flame, illuminating new life. Slices of that same light burns in the rising sun each dawn. Though plainly darkness claims its share of day, the good darkness of night, the morning hours before dawn, providing bodily rest, nature's recharging. But what of the darkness that shuns light? As when a close friend remains all day in curtain-drawn rooms, dressed in night clothes, bed unmade, Tuesday's dishes piled in the sink, with green-tinted bread on the counter. That first light appear again if you made a visit and share some comfort with your despondent friend who is out of work, out of marriage, sitting with head down, drying tears. Think not your finger a wand to lift the dimness shrouding any flicker of hope. Rather, embrace your friend with uncommon patience. Imagine their happiness when you stay and become the flame that lights their candle. And this one is about where I'm at. It's called The Good Empty. My classroom is empty, students gone. Another class is not coming. I am no longer a teacher. 3 bedrooms in my house are empty. My children have married, gone elsewhere. I am less a parent and more a grandparent. A bare patch in the yard is empty, grown out as clay where once my sailboat cradled in the off-season, fading memories of the skipper I once was. My last back surgery made it clear, no more shushing down the mountain slopes. Rust appears on metal edges. I ski down from a distance, my dreams. Emptiness of unbearable absence compels me to fill the void, often with illusions that betray the noise, a resounding deafness, unable to hear the solace I seek. I want to hitch my spirit to the setting sun, journey through the not so dark nor lonely night, quietly until reaching the light of dawn, busy unwrapping the gift of a new day. The good emptiness rests in quiet solitude. Getting there requires abandonment, a yard sale of the soul, red tags for despair, stress, worn, and anxious. It is then I feel drawn to a sacred stillness where conversation begins with the inner voice of love, as though I have walked around the world, coming to a bench where you sit, waiting for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Joseph. That was very moving. Well done. And now we have Sheila Lynch Bentinen.
Thank you. Thank you, Jennifer, for putting this together and for breathing living lotus. As Ed mentioned, the aura here is very wonderful. You've breathed some special in here. So this neighborhood, one of my interests is archaeology, and this neighborhood right here is had 10,000 years of people living it, and not many people know that. And this is a mortar and pestle from this area that a woman used to grind corn. And this is a bowl that was found underground, and it would have a fire underneath it. And down the street, a 10,000-year-old settlement was found by archaeologists and closed up. So I'm always amazed when I come to this neighborhood, and it borders the Jones River and out to the bay, on how old it is. So this poem is about that. The earth, she holds secrets. Harsh winter landscape, coated deep, silent blanket of snow. Below the rock-solid, unyielding earth, slowly changing with the light. Spring soil starts to warm. The farmer does his ancient homage to the sun by overturning and seeding soft soil with sustenance. Under black dirt of wonder, worms and a world of microbes, there are also surprises in my area that speak from centuries past. A many centuries-year-old clay pot found beneath the changing soil, made expertly by a woman just as her family had taught her over time. She formed the soft clay with craft, then fired it to hold the abundant food she collected, to make over the fire sustaining dinner. Looking at the bowl today, I can see the stirring of the pot. I can smell the warm food and the smoky fire. There is history written in books, and there is history written in the soil. Voices unheard leave their presence here in artifacts to say, I also lived here. You know, it's interesting. Last time, you may remember this, Miriam, I did a poetry reading down the street, and there was a cat in the background, and it was meowing. And just now, there's a meowing cat. I think there's, yeah. It's so interesting.
It is a cat. He lives right upstairs.
Oh, does he?
I let him in. He comes in, he'll usually walk around, and then he'll leave. But,
He's adding a background music.
Does he take his shoes off?
always.
So this poem is about immigrants. Some arrived many thousands of years ago. Some arrived recently with servants. Some arrived shackled to the boat as slaves. Some arrived hungry, escaping the unspeakable. Some arrived by plane. Some arrived with permits of all different colors. Some arrived at Ellis Island. Some arrived with border coyote payments. Some can stay. Some judge who shall go. Some say only their religion is true. Some say only their skin color is worthy. Some do not know history. This poem is about a friend I recently met who's a fabulous bird photographer and spends all day and was a heavy-duty businessman in Boston. Untethered. Untethered, he leaves the house with his camera, looking to share the wonder he finds in birds, all their colors, varieties, personalities, fascinated by the endless wonder. Untethered. He no longer reads or watches the news. He no longer goes into the city for a job. He studies the forest and the seaside seasons instead of the stock market gyrations. Untethered. He wanders unnamed paths, listens for unknown languages, open to amazement at nature and an unrestricted schedule. Untethered. He feels elation with natural beauty. He knows he will soon fly away, and he wants to be as light as possible. Untethered. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheila. And now we have Michael Shea. He's an old friend of mine, so it's great to hear him at this poetry reading. Welcome.
I have two poems looking forward to this weekend's celebration of Father's Day. First is to my father, who at a very early age impressed on me the importance of learning language correctly, carefully, and with great reverence. Probably after one of those sessions where I brought home a rather miserable report from the good sisters at Immaculate Conception Grammar School. Speaking, writing, and singing, Mike, are very important to us. I think in my father's mind, language approached Scripture. And in the book of Matthew, that most evocative command, Lazarus, come forth. So this is for Daddy. Words for my Irish father. I spoke with faith that words would mend like balm or arms, or fill like earth the faults of fear, and bond the broken rings with song from ancient airs or druids' charms. I mined for words and tuned the ear to hear the diamond sounds strike light and toll their truths down midnight mines, and watched with mirth the clarion tones eclipse the night. I search for words to soothe the hearts that ache and break for justice' sake. I beat my tongue to balm the bruised, unbroken hope in healing notes a harp would make. Yet here, my father, who wrought my life and shaped my faith, who breathed in me the blood of race, all words despair to conjure breath and strike the night from your final face. Speedier than I thought. This is both light and dark. It concerns an event with my son when he was 8. He had just joined the Cub Scouts. He was a member of a pack. And their first commission was to gather at Town Cemetery on Memorial Day, I believe it was Saturday morning early, to refurbish the graves with fresh flowers and flags. And he was up for it. On Cemetery, Memorial Day for my son Michael. Inside the wrought iron spears of the gate, we muster some minutes after 10. The marshal, a VFW senior, instructs the squad of Cub Scouts in a voice like rocks knocking how to adorn the veterans' graves with the fresh flowers and flags. Scouts without wagons have brought their sleds to transport geraniums from marker to marker. Eager to enlist in the morning's fray, Michael aims the handle toward my hand. You pull the wagon, Dad. I'll do the plants. I follow orders, yet stepping with a sense of trespass. He with a thrill of the hunt. There's one, he yells, then scrambles off toward a lot beneath a yew, occupied by a small white cross, a rusted sheath, and an urn filled with stalks, shoots, and shade. Michael's quick. He jabs the gold staff through the rings, then drops upon the urn an explosion of red. Easy, he beams. Now, keen with reconnaissance, he scans the field. There's one, he signals, and dashes off with reinforcements. I follow him till morning's end, from grave to fresh-cut grave, through a growing no man's land, estranged from Michael and the dead, for he is free from all the past, and they from all I fear. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Good to hear your voice. So we're going to bring up Susan Thanis, please.
Kind of nice. And I'm sorry I was late. I went to the buildings across the other street from the library, and they helped me find it. Oh, no. Find the right place, so I'm glad I was here. The first poem I'd like to read is called A Favorite Place, and perhaps you can guess where it is before you find out at the end. A favorite place. Not so far from home, but like another world, this spit of land where boats turn into the bay or out into the Atlantic seems a continent away. Blue water washes the shores on both sides of the road as I drive out to meet it. When I am halfway there and see it shining in the sun, that's enough. I pull over and pull out my camera in case a snowy owl or a windsailor flies by. Then I drive the whole way out, climb the steps to the edge of the cliff, and look all the way back from my spirit home at Gurnet Light. Crinkled canvases. Painting seashells is like preserving rare canvases. So many lie on the beach or beneath the bridge, dropped by gulls, empty of inhabitants, but perfect for painting. At home, I scrub and soak them in water and bleach. When dry, a coat of complementary color prepares them for a scene, often one of where they came from. Many people collect them only to smash with hammers for a white walk or driveway. But I like to keep them whole and create scenes of beauty on crinkled canvases, one-of-a-kind oyster shells. And this last one is, you'll find out a little bit about my childhood. Lemonade. Freckles galloped across the bridge of my nose, new spots appearing every summer. They'll fade, you'll see, everyone said when I was 12. But not believing them, I'd sneak into the kitchen, peer inside the refrigerator to look for a lemon tucked under the lettuce in the bin below. Then, with knife in hand, I'd creep upstairs, hoping no one was in the bathroom. The blade, sliding beneath the peel, released a pungent spray from the pulp I rubbed on my cheeks and nose, blinking back tears. Now, I wish I still had those freckles instead of the ones covering my arms and hands. And I prefer my lemon on lobster or in tea. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. We're going to welcome another new reader, Michelle Lerman.
I've been wondering if I was going to be tall enough. Very new writer. So first I want to thank Hometown Poet Laureates for having this event, and Paul for hosting and inviting me to this. Also to encourage me. My writing, my poetry has been coming out literally in the just last couple months. Don't know quite where it's coming from. I suspect it's being channeled. And also, I just want to reach out to Michael Shea. So the poem I'm reading now is a reflection of how I felt this past Saturday of Memorial Day weekend, to reference your son's joy. And I remember those Boy Scout Saturdays, by the way. The weather reminds me of that last day. Damp, cold, rainy. A day one would prefer to cuddle with a book, a warm blanket, a cup of tea. So much to do, though. A basket of papers to cull, bills to be paid, new plants to be potted, choices to be made, inaction preferred, no energy to proceed. Pretend it is just another day. Ignore the honoring, afraid to open the floodgates. Unbox the remains of a childhood uncompleted and decide what must be kept, what can be given away for another's joy, what should be tossed. Drag out the boxes, gaze at the finite memories, photos that end at 5 years. Sit, try to remember the smell of her hair, the sound of her voice, the touch of her hand in mine. Her clothes no longer hold her scent. Her fingerprints on toys last touched no longer provide connection. What's left is mostly recall from photographs taken, just a few now, from memories of our too short time together. I did not know then how I should have treasured them, fixed them in my mind, wrote them down, chronicled each day, hour, minute. Still, there are moments when I feel her lying on my chest, the same way she did the night before she left. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle, and for sharing such a personal experience. I think we all felt it. So keep coming, please. Okay? And I mean that sincerely. Next up is one of my buddies, Marilyn Gove. Would you please come up?
Well, Michelle, you've got a friend in me. I'm always talking about the podium. It's either I'm too tall or it's too short. I don't know, one of those two. Yeah, Marianne actually had suggested that. But I feel like I schlep enough to the meetings already. Anyhow, I moved back here from Southern California 3 years ago, and ever since I've come back, the pollen and allergies have been the bane of my existence. So I have some of that going on today. Actually, I was in competition with Sheila, who thinks she's got more of it than I do, but you know, she's a bragger. Anyhow, the first poem I want to read, I haven't read it all. I don't think I respected it enough, to be perfectly honest, if we're talking about respecting a piece of work you've written. And I think it was a prompt to do a poem in place and time. And I found myself doing research, and because I had lived in California, I came across the Great Flood of 1862. And if you know California now, you know there's Southern California, Northern California, and the Central Valley, which we're all hearing a lot of on TV lately. But then the Central Valley really went all the way up to like Sacramento, so it was very large. And I thought about this flood and how catastrophic it was and what it takes to rebuild, so I wrote a brief poem about it. Title, California's Great Flood of 1862. Wild rains walloped the west coast. The Central Valley became an inland sea. Livestock drowned in its waterlogged graveyard. Farm towns splintered into scraps of wood. Telegraph poles uprooted and swallowed. 4,000 lives swept away. No sign of let up for months. Only sleep illuminated the possibility of rebuilding, first in dreams, then with courage. Okay. And several of the people here know I've written several poems about my mother. I'm not really clear on why, because it's not as though we had the closest relationship in the world, but she was rather unique. So this is dedicated to my mother, Mildred, AKA Millie, and it's titled, The Season Has Changed. Late January, you were lowered into a hard, cold earth. There was snow on the ground, the frozen kind, spoiled by dirt and debris. Mid-May, the crocus returned. You had cared for them daily, watched them grow, lean towards the sun. They taught you to persevere. In June, I gather an old blanket from the trunk of my car, walk to a nearby beach, stare out at sea. The offshore breakers stare back at me. I wrap the blanket around me, bend at the knees and lie down. The tide is low, the wind blustery. I don't care if people stare. I think of you, the good and the bad. Sounds of wind and ocean envelop me. I am cocooned. I want to open like the crocus. The season has changed. Thank you. I'm sure she's like, that's damn good, Marilyn, that's damn good. She was quite a character. Yeah. She knew more four-letter words than anyone I ever met. And she could use them in a sentence that would leave you speechless. Okay. This next one, oh, you know what? I think I'm going to go to a fun one. What about that? You want some fun? Sure. Okay. This one is called Sweet Crush. Sweet Crush. I see you through the window of a seaside shop. I try to walk away, but you compel me to stay. I am overcome and cannot resist. Craving you moves to the top of my list. Heavenly chocolate, I'm enamored by you. Fruits, nuts, yogurt simply won't do. I know I should rally, try and be strong, but this is what happens when you toke on a bong. Small bells ring as I enter the shop. Small bells ding, ding, small bells sing. I float on over to the shop's display case, a wide-eyed smile on my wanton face. I ask for a dozen, loud and clear. I think I'm in love with a milk chocolate square. Your smooth brown skin, decadent and sweet. Indulge me, sweet morsels, but don't stick to my teeth. I stroll on over to a bench by the sea, compose this love poem for you and for me. You are the one thing I can't live without. Delicious, delectable, you melt in my mouth. Thank you.
Thank you, Marilyn. And this is how the universe works. I'm actually going to cut in for a little advertisement for Chocktoberfest. So I didn't even set Marilyn up to do a chocolate poem, but Luisa Clarici has asked me to speak for just a moment. There will be a call for poets, and they're looking for poetry that is chocolate related or candy. There's going to be a big event during Chocktoberfest 2025, which is October, just hold on one second here, October 10th through the 13th, but the actual poetry reading date that we're talking about here is Saturday, October 11th from 12 to 3 p.m. The event itself will be at the Spire Center for Performing Arts. And we're looking for poems. I have handouts which actually have her email address where you can reach out for her. But if you have any interest in being involved in creating poetry around chocolate or sweet or candies, I highly suggest that you join and submit. So that is my thank you, Marilyn, for the introduction. Yes, thank you. Thank you. Oh, you're smart. And our next reader is now Joanne Zarkaitis.
Hi. So I have 3 poems. One is serious, one is silly, and one is a love poem. This first poem is serious. It's called I Speak For. I speak for the baby rabbit laying mangled in our side yard. I speak for this little one we gently lifted off the path and set down in the shrubs, hidden from view, out of harm's way. I speak for the mother rabbit sitting outside her nest under the deck, waiting and wondering when her little one will return from his first solo adventure. I speak for all mothers, waiting for their sons and daughters to arrive home whole, happy, and unharmed. Military mothers praying their children will return from war. black and brown mothers, hoping their children maneuver the day without being attacked for the color of their skin. Mothers of gay and trans kids, wishing their children could have one day free from bullying and harassment. I speak for all mothers who love their children fiercely, while knowing that sometimes love is not enough to keep them safe. This is my love poem. This poem's for you. I wrote it in the middle of the night with no lights on, surrounded in peaceful, dark silence. I used the loveliest words I could think of: luscious, luminous, sensual, winsome, wistful, nostalgic, arabesque, pirouette, rendezvous, reverie. You can arrange them any way you wish, but when you read them out loud, read them slowly, oh, so slowly, savoring the sound of each syllable and the feel of each word vibrating on your tongue and lips. Read them more than once, and each time you do, think of me thinking of you. This is the silly one. It's called What's the Rule? If more than one mouse is called mice, why isn't more than one house called heis? If more than one goose is called geese, why isn't more than one moose called meese? You have 1 foot, but 2 feet, 1 tooth, but more teeth, a child or some children, an ox or some oxen. You can have 1 tuna or 2, 1 sheep or many, 1 fish or 10, 1 aircraft or a fleet. Keeping track is quite a feat. You have, you had, you hold, you held, you know, you knew, you grow, you grew. You vacuum with your vacuum. You spoon with your spoon. So doesn't it make sense to broom with your broom? The list goes on and on, exceptions to every rule. For one rule fits all, I am truly yearning. It's very confusing, not one bit amusing, especially for those who are teaching or learning. Thank you.
Thank you, Joanne. Clearly, you like to play with words. And the word luscious, I will tell you, that was what my grandmother used when she talked about the food that she was cooking. So thank you for reminding me about Grandma Molly. Our next reader is Ken Cohane.
Thank you all. I'd like to start with just thank you. Listening to you, being here, feeds my soul, and it needs feeding, so thank you. I'll start with, I was drafted when I was 19. I landed in Vietnam at 20. I was on my way home on a stretcher at 21. I literally got blown up. My voice never came back. However, that's a small price to pay for the peace I have found. And it's interesting that these 2 readings are totally different, but I will tie them together. The first one is Memorial Day. Now we think of Memorial Day as cookouts, the start of summer, good weather, but it's so much more than that, like at the gravestones. And so Memorial Day, thinking of Sergeant Evans, who was 4 feet from me the day I got wounded, the day he died. And then I go to this friend of mine, Peanut. He was a little kid from Texas. He used to tell me, Ken, when we get home, you're going to visit me in Texas. I'm going to show you my beautiful state. And Andy, he was a surfer dude from California. He told us about the day after graduation, him and his friend, and their friend and his girlfriend, swam in the Pacific Ocean. They went skiing that night. They died beside a road outside of Lake Koo. And one night, my unit was out in the field moving through an area. We stopped at a fireplace. I just happened to sit in a rock with this kid from Puerto Rico. He told me how beautiful Puerto Rico was, how much he missed his family. He died a few days later in a heart attack. Now, having read that, this next piece, I sit out in my yard in the morning in my garden. I feed my creatures with walnuts, squirrels, blue jays, a whole variety come. And I sit there, I meditate, I do some readings, and sometimes I write. Now, sharing that first part, to me, to honor those people, I am their eyes, I am their ears, I am their being, I am their soul. So, spring leaving, the glorious yellow sprays of forsythia turning to green, the joyous daffodils withering in the sun, the purple flowers covering the ground. Early spring, so welcome, and now once again gone. But wait, spring. The chickadees feeding their young, the turkey strutting proudly, the squirrel with a mouthful of nuts running up to its nest. And wait, don't stop there. Mother Nature, a mere month ago, the ground bare, the trees bare and silent, the birds and the animals waiting to burst forth, a testimony to their resilience. That first day, the maple trees' leaves shade. The first day of that shade, a miracle. And so much more. And open your eyes. Open them wider, and wider still. Bring this miracle, this glorious show into your heart. And feel the connection between all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. Next up, we have Elizabeth Hansen.
Hello. Thank you, Miriam. Thank you, Jennifer. It's a wonderful event. I have two poems. They're revised, both of them. I think I'm not going to do any kind of setup. I'm just going to read them through. There's a couple of musical references in one, but I think some of it kind of should be obvious, but I'm just going to go for the gold and read it. It's called Drop D. Playing out, oh, excuse me, 1 minute. I do fine for a minute and then, or for a while, and then my eyesight goes on me, so. All right, start again. Drop D. Playing out, cowbell and all. What's next? Throw that set list out. He nodded. Winds picking up. As sun came randomly upon her eyes. Open air riff, then solo, steady beat, then keyboard, drums keeping company. Call and answer, persuade me, remind me why. Seduce me, lead guitar, all originals, singer-songwriter genre, perfect niche. Endlessly, in quotes, no woman, no cry. Repeat, where would we be without music? Without this sound, this anthem? Quote, no woman, no cry. Everything's going to be all right. That was written in 2020, and that's why the ending. So this one was written, I think, the parts of it came from 2017, and I was going through Facebook and it popped up on my memory section, and so I kind of revamped it. And anyway, so revisions. Oh, I'm sorry. Revelations. The inside of a flower opens for your nose. The smell lets you see the way color calls to us. Nature will not be denied. Someone once told you, but did you listen? You had thought, this is what I want, but it isn't now. You stand in my shoes. Robert Johnson could tell you a few things if you let him. Slow and easy finger-picking style. Remember the bass line. The grass is wet. Day is ready. You need to sit down. You tug on your dress, wrap it around your knees. Nothing can help you. You thought you had friends. You do. But they all have terms. Nothing is going to be the way you want, including love. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. And now we will proceed to Miriam O'Neill, our Plymouth Poet Laureate. You're the closing act, Miriam.
Hey, folks. We've been around the world in these poems. It's been really wonderful. And I thank all the voices because we need the voices. We need the voices of resistance. We need the voices of love. We need the humor. We need the memory. We need it all. I was trying to figure out where do I go with all this, and I just have a couple of poems that I'd like to share with you. There's a generational thing that happens. Something that happened to your grandparent becomes something different for your parent, becomes different for you. But there's something that gets pulled through if you're not careful It's hard to break the chain. So this is a little food but not food poem. I can taste the floral notes in thyme and oregano, the bottom note of licorice in fresh ground pepper. The narrow iron bar of my mother's loss in my mouth, yanked tight by her dead father's reins. And I am struggling to find my courage in the face of, in what we're facing. I didn't know I was so much of a coward, but I'm trying. This is called Stamped, and it's dedicated to Anne E. Pluto and Gloria Mindick, who are two poets of witness who give me hope that I will find my own courage. A friend writes a poem about buka, humanity, inhumanity, butchery. Another writes of blood-soaked dresses and Franco's brutal reign. They lay down words for inconsolable hearts. I am the woman who cannot speak of the violence without fear. Stamped with silence, I am the patriarchy's dream, that each woman's voice will ravel into a wax knot, to be melted and rocked to and fro, a closed fist sealing the envelope of compliance. But I keep following my sister's lines, that red thread through this forest, hoping to find my way to my own rage. And I will end on two lighter notes. This poem was published in the Galway Review, and it's a poem after the style of the poet Brendan Kennelly's poem Begin. It's called Summons. The birds summon first, then the light beyond the windows begins to roar with the traffic noise of sun and mist that comes on wheels the wind makes. Every morning, the lively arrogance of girls unafraid of the highest branches in the linden from which they view the sea. The métier of babies waking with unspeakable ideas, the way we linger with the beloved who appeared in dreams. Begin with the owls who know the night is ending and call each other to sleep. Gizzards packed with cracked bones, they cull the last slash of deep night. Their sleep the relief of each oak-leafed whiskered vole who loosens its hold on the damp earth. Another iron dawn appearing, horizon a torn red seam, each star's stitch slipped from the bluing field. End the search for the mother drenched in forgiveness, the father who celebrates his children's wings. Let morning gavel in the oath of one more day. Witness one more happiness insisting on its say. And I'm going to end with this poem. It's called The Arrangement. This is my crazy old lady poem. The Arrangement. I am old now, but at least the sun is older. Frisked by wind, I am cold and blithe as the wings of a skunk-sweet raptor above the field where something's left of a coyote's kill. Thick-ribbed slice of woman, now I know what time is, and my obligation to not be too concerned, not because I'm not, but because the sun is not, nor the ice-ridged wind, nor the small clot of flesh and bone and fur the bald-headed bird watches over, because to care does not change the arrangement. How I will walk on is not my business. How to stay, a lesson the old sun repeats each morning, like a woman in her dotage, day after day, who greets the robins saying, "Hello, birds," grinning even as the robins fly away.
Thank you, Miriam. And so we will close today's open mic. Thank you all. It was wonderful hearing you. Please stop by and visit me at my table at the Waterfront Festival coming this summer in Plymouth Harbor. I'm by Brewster Garden, and that's August 23rd. So that's the next time you'll see me, and we're going to have some fun playing with some words and making some poems. So thank you all, and have a great summer.